everybody, my name is Unique and I am the baby landlord. Well, today I'm actually sitting in my apartment and I wanted to go over 10 things to remember as a baby landlord. These are 10 tips that I've experienced myself, and I think I have a good idea of what to make sure to consider when landlording for the first time. So I'll go ahead and jump right on in. Don't forget to like and subscribe my channel. Support goes a long way. All right, so number one, get a property manager. Please. Please. Well, let me say this. If you're like me, you need a property manager. Why? I'm too emotionally attached to my tenants. Well, let's say my first tenant I was. She was my biggest blessing and my hardest spanking at the same time. She was already here when I came to the building, and I just had a soft spot for her. She has 5 kids, and it's been a journey. And let's just say I've attached myself emotionally, and that's a dangerous spot to be in as a landlord, especially a baby landlord. Hey, it happens to everyone. I think you gotta have a couple of tenants to kind of get the gist of what to do and what not to do, and I'll discuss that later in this list. But Lord have mercy, it is hard to detach. So my number one is get a property manager. It kind of helps you not be weak. You have a middleman, you have a person in between. I know some people actually disguise themselves as the property manager, so you'll never know what the owner feels. I think that's too much work. Showing up at the building as the cleaning maintenance person or the manager, and they never see the owner. Like, to me, that's too much. And that's more in the situation where you have an LLC. That makes sense for that. But if you don't have an LLC and the building is in your name, you need a property manager. You actually need the in-between person. And listen, duly noted. Yeah, please get a property manager, and don't be discouraged by the whole well, I've heard this about property managers. It may take a minute to get a good property manager. I'm going through that now myself. But I did say I wanted to get a property manager to detach myself emotionally, at least while I'm in the building. While I'm in the building, it's just and then when I leave the building, you know, it makes sense to just go ahead and get one anyway, to be your eyes and your ears. But maybe when I leave the building, it'll be a different scenario. So that's number one. Number two, get a network of landlords. Please, as much as you can, get a network of landlords. I went to different events like the CHA symposium, and that's a Section 8 humongous landlords conference, if you will, homeowners. And it's not just for Section 8 landlords, it's also for general landlords who are what we call market renters. So when I go there, I get numbers. I exchange numbers with people. I give them my number. I take their number. I've taken so many numbers. I'm trying to remember which event was this person. And I just went through my phone calling landlords, because it did take me a minute to call them after the symposium. But I just kept feeling the need to just reach out to other landlords. And I'll talk about that more. It helps you feel like you're not alone in this business, if you will. It helps you just establish a network, a team, people that bounce ideas off you, people that give you advice, people who you can give advice to. It takes a village to survive in this world. But that's number 2. Number 3 is implement a zero tolerance. You have to. So this will be tried. Your patience, your kindness, your heart will be tried. Your zero tolerance will be challenged. Please implement a zero tolerance. Take it from someone who didn't. Take it from someone who was passive at times. At times I wasn't. Like I said, my first tenant was actually my most humbling moment of the do's and don'ts and the rules and regulations. She was a good person of how to set my rules and regulations, my first tenant. These tenants out here are smart. They're very smart, but if you're owner occupied, you got more rights than you think you do. So implement a zero tolerance. You have to stay afloat. You'll be racing after your rent, not getting responses from them, listening to their sob stories, accepting their sob stories. It's a dog eat dog world, and I'm not saying eat everybody, but please be wise. You have to implement a zero tolerance. Number 4, be transparent. Be very clear with your tenants. Be very clear. Don't add a if you, it could, it should, it would. Be very clear cut. And also this goes for your property manager too. Let them know your vision. Depending on, I know there's different type of property managers. You have the property management, which is a whole company, and then you have the individual property managers. I'm dealing with an individual property manager right now, and I want to say please be very clear, and we'll talk about that more in the next tip. The next tip, number 5, is delegate. Be a leader. You won't survive otherwise. And I find myself, though sometimes I want to shrink back, I kid you not, though sometimes I want to hide under a rock, it's a call to leadership. Delegate. Property managers especially, let them know, like I said, your vision. Let them know your expectations. Let them know what they need to do if they're moving too slow. Delegate. You may have to delegate. I found myself having to delegate with a leak, and I felt like this person should know to handle this, but you have to delegate. This is what I need done. Give me a call back with these quotes, and do not send a person over here until I have the quotes, and we'll go from there. So go ahead and be a leader. That's number 5. Number 6 is screen the heck out of your tenants. Now sometimes they lie. You're not responsible if they lie. I've had a tenant who lied. Straight lied to my face. Oh, was smiling, all smiles, peaches and cream. Heaven sent in the beginning, and then after living in a unit became horrible. Very irritating, to say the least. So screen them. Look for patterns, like if they jump apartments. You'd be surprised how that tells a story. Screen the jobs. Make sure you have check stubs. You need check stubs, because these days people are fraudulently submitting information, and not that they don't have a job, but their actual job may not be their job. Now I know you can do that via the credit check and so forth, and the background check. It's just you need numbers, and you need such. I would do an employment verification. How about that? and employment verification. I used to think when I was renting, why do these landlords need all this information and all this? You gotta Section 8 them. When I say Section 8 them, you gotta ask for every freaking thing you can. You gotta ask for a social security number. You gotta ask what they ate yesterday. You gotta ask how many kids it is. You gotta go visit the apartment. You gotta check their status. You have to. If you don't, you'll be stuck for a year with the tenant from you know where. So please screen your tenants. That's number 6. Number 7 is Google research. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my list. Google research, get a mentor, then implement a list of rules for yourself and do not deviate. So Google research, basically look up everything there is to know about being a landlord, being a real estate investor, being a property manager. You fall under all those categories. If you don't have a property manager, you're actually the property manager. You're actually the landlord. You're an investor. Well, it's a fine line, right? I live in my building, so technically I'm not an investor. But people, instead of calling you landlords, they kind of jump to you being a real estate investor, whether it's true or not. So look up all those titles and just get tips and tricks of how to be a great landlord. One thing I did, which I don't have it on here, which is just as important, I follow a lot of Facebook pages. One in particular gives out so much great advice. I mean, so much. You'll have a landlord or property manager jumping on there and saying what have been the craziest things you've heard from tenants, craziest calls you've got from tenants, and I've laughed my butt off because that page makes me feel like I am not alone, and people have went through some stuff. I've seen things about evictions on there. Everyone's telling their story, everyone's giving advice, and then you get to gauge where you fall at in between that advice, meaning do you follow certain things that they normally do, or are you kind of off course, or are you on task with what everyone else is doing, basically. So that helps a lot. Research, same thing. Look up the laws in your city and your state. For me, it's really general when it's owner occupied, because it's basically your lease is your ordinance, your lease is your contract, your lease. So do not disrespect your lease. I should have put that in there. Please do not disrespect your lease. Please, if you put that lease, if you say no outside guests, implement it, enforce it. If you say what is something else? Rent late, eviction, enforce it, basically. Don't disrespect your lease. And when I said implement a list of rules for yourself and do not deviate, I'm actually going to do that based on things I've learned over the last year and a half. It's not a year and a half yet, is it? I think it's kind of going, it is almost a year and a half. So I've got a chance to gauge, even with just a few tenants, what to do, what not to do, how to be, how to stand. And then when you implement a list of rules for yourself, whether you're the property manager or not, whether you're managing your own property or not, you can at least help your property manager know this is what you expect, this is how you feel, and this is where you stand. Sorry, I'm hearing scratching. So that's that. Number 8. No family and friends. Why? If you have a soft spot for people, absolutely not. If you have a soft spot for your family and friends, absolutely not. It's the same thing as mixing business with pleasure or business with personal. It does not work, I promise you. Please do not rent to your family and friends. You will see a whole nother side of the people you love, you know, and it could just get ugly. I've known a situation where there actually had to be a property manager implemented for family. And that's crazy. That means a middle person had to come in with family. I'm so confused. Like, I don't understand how this works. Now, this is not every family. I've heard of one case scenario where it actually worked out. They were like 3-4 generations down that they rented out to their family, but it's very rare. And that story isn't completed yet. So just please don't. Number 9. Organize everything. Organize for taxes purposes and in case of eviction. I mean, you never know. You never know what people try to do, you just never know, right? And then for tax purposes, what I do is, and I'll show you my folder file system one day soon. What you want to do is organize. What my accountant told me to do was organize each floor, literally, and then put a folder for each floor, and then a folder for the building itself, and then a folder for like I have one for repairs and maintenance. No, I don't actually. I take that back. I have one for my refinance and my obtaining the building. So, but organize everything. So, for instance, first floor had repairs done this year. Put every receipt in that folder. Every time you had correspondence, if you could, put it in that folder, or make sure you have a digital version. Because I'm going to implement a digital folder system so that I can put emails, copies of emails. Because it doesn't make sense to print out all this paper and here's the email for this and here's the email. No, that does not make sense. But you want to definitely set yourself up for success and get a file system. Second floor, the lease. Make sure the lease is in the folders. Make sure any repairs is in the folders. I once paid the utilities for the second floor. I put that in the second floor folder. Anything pertaining to that tenant or that floor, that apartment, put it in that folder.